Can I edge my heart here? Navigating the mystery and the puzzle, the painful puzzle of trauma bonding with someone with borderline personality disorder. So just as a reminder, or maybe people might be coming along and starting out their journey of trying to figure out BPD, what do we need to say about borderline personality disorder to just kind of rather unveil what's at the heart of BPD? Borderline personality disorder is characterized by unstable relationships, volatile self-image because they lack a self, and intense, highly sensitive responses, along with a lot of emotional dysregulation and triggers that affect people with BPD in intense, unpredictable, volatile, and explosive ways. But the triggers are within inside people with BPD, so it's not like other people are responsible for their triggers. People with BPD are grappling with and struggling with a fear of abandonment, also a fear of engulfment. So there's the approach avoidance conflict as a big core piece of what borderline personality disorder really is. People with BPD also have often, they're unaware of and kind of unconscious, very impulsive behavior, impulsive feelings, impulsive ways of trying to escape how they feel. And so a lot of impulsivity. They have a lot of intense anger, chronic intense anger actually, and chronic feelings of emptiness because they lack a known self due to the emotional arrested development that happens to those who go on to be diagnosed with BPD. It happens by or before the age of 2. And people with BPD really, unless and until they get significant treatment, do not have any really coping skills to deal with all of their intense emotional dysregulation and turmoil and what they're feeling inside that they're probably consciously not aware of where it's coming from. And often then they think that how they feel at any given triggered moment is the person closest to them's fault. And that's not accurate. So a bit of an overview about trauma bonding. Trauma bonding refers to the deep emotional attachment that can develop between individuals in an abusive or toxic relationship. Trauma bond often occurs when the person subjected to adverse experience, poor treatment, being blamed, raged at, withdrawn from, push, pull, the person being subjected to the borderlines inability to see and hear you, lack of mutuality and reciprocity, and outright abuse, often people with codependency. When you become emotionally connected to an abuser, and in this case, a person with untreated or maybe patterns of an undiagnosed borderline personality disorder. These cycles within these unhealthy bonds follow patterns wherein you're getting really hurt, you're getting blamed, you're getting raged at. Like I said, they could be giving you the silent treatment. Just there's a myriad of things that are happening that are really injurious to you, and you're getting blamed for things, and it's not your fault, and there's nothing you can do to change what's happening with this person with BPD. But these cycles of their vicious, often behavior and treatment of you are followed by kind of like making up attempts, which are periods of affection and or promises of change that are the intermittent reinforcement that pull people along. So you've just been treated horribly, you've gone through a lot, big thing happened, big episode, you're hurt, you don't know what's going on, you're getting blamed for it. But then after they calm down, they'll come back, they'll give you some affection, they'll give you that intermittent reinforcement before it happens over again and over again and over again. This is how you get involved and more intensely attached to this person who treats you horribly, then gives you intermittent reinforcement, and then treats you horribly. Because people with codependency have been hurt in their childhood. Many people are aware of what that is. Many people might not know right now. I'm out here to work with you. you resonate with me and you would like to heal from your codependency and these cycles and what's going on and how your unconscious, your wounded inner child is unconsciously motivating you to be staying in a relationship like this, an unhealthy bonded relationship, because of childhood woundedness and the search of the inner child unconsciously within you, if you have codependency, for reparation. That is not going to happen in this type of relationship. And people with codependency and childhood woundedness and dysfunctional families of origin to one degree or another often then equate in childhood what is neglect or emotional or verbal abuse, or worse, you kind of equate that, the wires cross in your programming as a young child, because you equate neglect and poor treatment with love. And that's because you're a child, no matter how a parent may treat you, or in a covert way may hurt you, if not an overt way, physically and or emotionally, then you still need that parent. So your children are programmed to love the parent. And so love and poor treatment, etc., get kind of fused together. And these bonds, and betrayal bonds is another name for it, they are deeply damaging and are incredibly difficult to break free from. And that's where people like myself come in. I have a lot of experience, 33 and a half years, helping people in this healing recovery journey to break that betrayal bond and to learn how you got there in the first place, maybe why you've been relationship recycling for years or a long time, why you still feel like you want this person back when they're just annihilating you and you're losing yourself and your pain is exponentially increasing. It's because these bonds are that unhealthy and they require people get a lot of help to break the bond. Now, people with BPD are going to need even more help, but you need to be able to take care of yourself to break your part of this unhealthy bond. Betrayal bonding or trauma bonding with somebody with borderline personality disorder makes for one complex, unhealthy, and rather impossible relationship. So this way of, quote, bonding, unquote, is very particularly associated with and relevant to people who have borderline personality disorder due to the very nature of what borderline personality disorder is and how it comes about, at least what we know, how it comes about in people's lives, because people with borderline personality disorder have had a betrayal bond in childhood, minimum of at least one, and maybe more than that. And so this becomes the only way that they understand how to relate, and they don't know who they are. So there isn't going to be much healthy coming from them in relationships when they're untreated. So how does this trauma bonding interact with BPD symptoms? Well, it's the fear of abandonment in people with BPD that can drive people with BPD to form and try to maintain relationships without realizing how harmful they're going to be for themselves and for the person they're in the relationship with, without realizing their lack of self-awareness to relational deficits that have all to do with BPD symptoms and the loss of self, the lack of self, unstable sense of identity within those with borderline personality disorder. And really, people with borderline personality disorder, through no conscious awareness or intent of their own, really foster these unhealthy types of bonds. It is their intense emotional mood swings and dysregulated emotion, the major defense mechanism in BPD, which is splitting. So 1 minute you can be all good and fine and everything seems fine, and the next minute, and you might not have a clue why, and maybe the borderline doesn't have a clue why, but you're going to get split to the evaluation and the all bad category, and then all the chaos and the drama and the walking on the eggshells and the roller coaster ride, it all just kicks in and you're like, I don't know what's going on here, but okay. And then really, people get really invested and attached to trying to calm all that down, to trying to help the borderline, to trying to rescue them, to trying to change them, to trying to de-escalate them. So that you can go back to having maybe a little bit of that positive engagement that gets more and more short-lived as these relationships go along. So how do people break free from the unhealthy bond with a borderline? That takes working with someone who's an expert in this area, like myself, and really understanding what fostered your codependency, which is itself a formidable mental health challenge that is a response to adverse experience to varying degrees in childhood for people with codependency. And like I said, unmet needs, wounded inner child, and that wounded inner child part of you will attach much more strongly to the person with BPD than even you in the here and now or then and there did. And that's usually something that's in the unconscious awareness, so not consciously aware, for people who get into relationships with people with BPD. And of course, not many people do that knowingly. Some people have been in relationships with someone with BPD before, and they will find the next one and the next one. But there's always that first time, and people don't consciously know what they're getting involved in at all. Or what is it that you're repeating from your childhood woundedness, because there's repetition compulsions in codependency as well. Really rarely, if ever at all, can a person with codependency who's been so hurt by somebody with BPD and in one of these unhealthy bonds where you are attached for more reasons that are unhealthy than you know, not only because of where the person with BPD is at and what they're going through and what they present and how they treat you, but also because of your childhood woundedness. People who are in these relationships, or you're in a relationship with someone with BPD, maybe they are your ex now, you still want them back, etc. Well, there's a real unconscious pull to why that is, as well as what you may believe and know it to be in the here and now. But it's avoidance and escaping the pain that you're in at the thought of not being with that person with BPD. So essentially, what's core, and an easier way to just say it outright, how do you know if you're in a betrayal bond with a person with BPD? Well, the minute you realize that you can't live with them, but you also don't know how to go on or live without them. And in these relationships of these unhealthy bonds, and when often the person with BPD ghosts you and or discards you and you don't know if it's final, it's really important for you as a non-borderline, as a codependent, and a lot of people don't like that word, but it applies to like 95 to 97% of people in these relationships. It doesn't all apply. There's also counter dependency, which can commingle and be on the other, like vacillating on a spectrum from codependency to counter dependency. And the reality of these relationships is that it feels impossible. It feels like you're addicted to that person. You're not really, but the neurobiology that kicks in and the hormones and neurotransmitters and hormones released, etc., when you're having like a good moment with that person, the intermittent reinforcement, yeah, you're going to get that dopamine surge and you're going to feel positive and like, oh yeah, this will work, this is good. And then you more deeply attach in a really unhealthy way. And then when there's another episode and you're being treated horribly and it's so painful and you can't believe it and it's so betraying, then you have a whole other set of chemicals and cortisol, the stress hormone, and other things, and the activation of your HPA axis, which is going to mean the amygdala and the fear center in your brain, and you're going to have a flight, fight, freeze or fawn response. And so this is activating your nervous system every time, from intermittent reinforcement to the crash of really being treated horribly, etc., being pushed away, pulled in, pushed out, so confusing, so hurt, losing yourself, not really even sometimes understanding what is reality. This is so crazy making what you're going through that it just sets your nervous system on fire every time. And this is where people can run into not only the loss of self, the emotional agony and pain of, well, the person with BPD is broken up or ghosted or discarded you, or you had to break up with them. there's a breakup, but you need to get them back because everything is happening inside of you. You don't know how to cope with it. And maybe you're not yet sure or aware of what it really means, but it's setting your nervous system on fire. It is having your nervous system react as in the way that Peter Levine described this, that it's as if that borderline who just pushed you away, ghosted you, and you're not sure if they discarded you. It's like now you're fearing without them. It's almost like you feel like you're going to be eaten by a tiger. But all of that stress and all those feelings and that sort of neurotransmitter and our neurobiological hormones and chemicals in the body are all going haywire because the HPA axis is looping in an effort to protect you from this. But it's the primal part, the reptilian brain, and it doesn't really help us in the way that it's designed to, because it's not really a tiger coming to eat you. It's a whole other thing. But the brain, the reptilian brain, doesn't know how to perceive accurately what the real dangers are for you in those moments. It's why a lot of people just kind of freeze. But when you're without that borderline, because they're not interested right now, they monkey branch, they ghosted, discarded you, and you want them back so badly, please make no mistake about this. I don't know if you believe it could work out, but it won't and it can't. These are impossible relationships. They are really unhealthy, betrayal bonded relationships. And your want and need to get them back is because you're in that dilemma of you can't live without them yet, right now, and you can't live with them. And you need to get into working with someone to get help to be able to process all of that, understand that, unearth where that comes from in your family of origin, in your childhood, and really start to break it apart and unpack it all so that you can learn coping tools and skills that you didn't learn in your childhood to defend yourself against this kind of incongruent, intermittent reinforcement type of unhealthy bond, because a lot of people had that to one degree or another in their childhoods, now replicating it with somebody in an adult relationship or any relationship type, and you just think that the only answer to your pain, rumination, cognitive dissonance, and agony is getting them back. But nothing can be further from the truth. You need to engage your own therapy and healing process to learn, not only, like I said, what's happening and everything, but you need to learn how to be able to cope with how you feel right now and to understand what that means in terms of loss, in terms of disengaging, in terms of being able, through a process that takes a little bit of work and time, to detach from this person that still has you in all these knots, even if they're not around. And many people will stay stuck in these betrayal bond, unhealthy bonded situations long after the person with BPD is gone. I've had clients come to me and it's like, it's been 3 years or 5 years or a year or 8 months, but all these different time increments, so it could be years, and the person might be feeling somewhat better and maybe not in as bad a condition and as much pain about not being with their BPDX, but they still are ruminating about this person every day, sometimes years later. Limerence and other issues that go with codependency can factor into this, but you're not going to get out of it by yourself. And when people say, oh, the borderline and this, and just walk away, just run. Well, it's like when you try to just run, emotionally, you're lost and it's very confusing. You're like in this fear, obligation, guilt place, the fog of it all. And literally what it would feel like if, nobody's saying literally run, like you could walk away. But that's really difficult because now you're in this unhealthy bonded place and it feels like it's going to take you out to walk away, that you don't know how to live without them. Because the quest to get the BPDX back is all about getting out of all of that pain, which is actually the last thing you need, because you need to get into a healing process to be able to face and learn coping mechanisms to face that pain, to process that pain, so you can heal it, breaking the unhealthy bond, healing your codependency, integrating your wounded inner child into you and bringing them to your here and now, so you can go forward as an independent person who cannot, who then hopefully will not replicate going through this nightmare relationship ever again. So people are jonesing to get the ex back because you don't want to face what you need to do for you in healing and recovery. And I say that many ways on this channel, many ways in my podcast. Many people with codependency are still not ready to hear it. Well, why is that? I think a major reason, among others, is the pleasure and pain principle, that most people don't seek out the pain. You're already in the agony and the pain, so I'm not asking you to seek out the pain, but you need to learn to lean into the adversity, go that way toward a healing recovery journey. And I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you, because I can help you with this, rather than to keep seeking the pleasure part of this rocky intermittent reinforcement situation of an unhealthy bond, where what's really real is the pain, the loss of self, the horrible treatment is way more real than the incremental intermittent reinforcement. You need to take an action step and make a choice for yourself that you want this journey of recovery. Because trust me, you will be able to, working with me, or if there's someone else you want to work with, just make sure they know what they're talking about. You will be able to settle your nervous system down, learn new coping tools and ways to get through the process until you're feeling stronger, and until some of the rumination and other things start to diminish a bit, you can feel much better. And then a major piece of the work is, how do you stay on the path toward breaking the unhealthy bond, detaching, finding more of yourself. It's an entire process, but people can't do it on their own. So the more I see comments on the channel or all over the internet, you see it, just run, well, it's not that simple to just run. And because like if you're trying to just run from the borderline or the borderline X or whatever, when you start that process, well, you feel like you're running in quicksand. So you're not really getting anywhere until you get someone's help to know how to go about doing this for yourself. But believe me, you need to break the unhealthy bond, the betrayal bond. You need to stop chasing, pursuing, and wanting your BPDX back, because your quicksand is only, you're sinking deeper and deeper every time you get them back. With all the promise and the illusion and the fantasy, and said by other YouTubers out there, it's gonna work, I can help you get your ex back, blah, blah, blah. Don't believe that. You believe that at your own peril. You need to learn how to get out of this relationship and understand how you got in it. And I have so many clients that say to me, and they break down, sometimes they're really angry, sometimes they just cry, or both. But how could I keep doing this to myself? How could I be so stuck this long and I still want them back? So it's never going to feel like the right time. It's never going to feel like you're doing the right thing. But that's the direction you need to go. Because often in life, when we have two choices, and one is a desired, seemingly pleasurable one, and the other one is the painful, I'm not sure how to cope with, I don't know how to go down this road, we need to pick the latter. The painful, difficult, adversarial, I don't know how to deal with this. Because that's why people like me are out here to help you to learn how to navigate that, and that you can come through that, and that you deserve absolutely nothing less than to fully heal, recover, detach from the borderline, break the unhealthy bond, heal from your codependency, heal your wounded inner child, and learn how to be you fully, and the you that you were always meant to be, with self-assertion and boundaries, and not getting into cluster B trauma bonds.